What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. In this video, we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. We have some body repair we wanna perform. We have a little bit of a dent and some scratches, and same over here. We're gonna try to clean those up, make them look a lot better. If you need parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. So here's the dent. It looks like someone sideswiped this vehicle, and there was some scratches and someone touched it up, which is a good thing that they touched it up because then you don't have any rust rubbing through. And also right here, same thing. It looks like someone hit, probably the same person, and then, or maybe not. So there's scratches there and they tried touching it up, but they didn't do a great job. And there's a little bit of a dent right there, some dent right there. So what we're gonna do, the first thing I'm gonna do is wash the vehicle, wash this side, we'll wash that and go from there. Okay, so now that that is clean, I can get a real good look at the dents. So this is raised up a little bit, and I can see under this light right here, this is raised up. So what we're gonna do is take the wheel off, we'll take the inner fender well out and see if I can access any of this from the back side. See if we can push that back a little bit. We want to get as much of the dent out as possible before we start sanding. We are definitely gonna have to sand and paint. This is bent up pretty good right here. There's an edge that we're gonna have to follow, and the trim pieces, we'll pull this trim piece off and also this trim piece for this dent. I think I'm gonna try to pull this a little bit. I'll heat it up a little bit, try to pull that. And then also right here, the trim piece is cracked, so I'm gonna pull this off. Now this trim is really expensive. With that little crack, I should be able to fix it, make it significantly better. But we'll give it a try, see how it looks. If anything, you know, we may have to buy a new trim piece, but all we can do is try. For this dent, I do want to pull it a little bit. You could take a ruler and just see if there's any high spots. That's why I want to pull it just a little bit. Actually, it's not too bad. Take the ruler and just try to see what you can find. So it's pretty low right there. Then right there, it's pretty high. Sometimes you might have a body line that you're like, oh, there's a high spot, but it's really just the curve of the vehicle. So there is a little bit of a high spot right there because of the dent. So we'll pull that out just a skosh. Now I'm gonna take the wheel off. I wanna loosen up the lug nuts before I raise the vehicle up. I'm gonna put a jack stand underneath the vehicle. You wanna make sure you put it in the proper location. Take that inner fender well out. A lot of times there's screws holding these in or some push clip. So I got this down. I don't really have to pull it out any further than that. That's good enough. There's a lot of junk in there. We'll vacuum that out later, but that's no big deal. Okay, so from the inside, now I can access that light. I can pull that light out and see if we can pull this out a little bit. From the back side, I'm just gonna push on this, slide this out. All right, that's pretty cool. So now we can access behind here. So I can do this a couple ways. I could try to heat this up and try to pull on this a little bit. And right here as well. So let's try a couple different methods. I am gonna take a rag from the inside and try to push up on this. First, just move this light out of the way. But I am gonna heat it up with a heat gun. Now I don't want to heat this up too much because I don't want to ruin the paint. Just heat it up a little bit. looking better. I'm just pushing it from the inside. I am gonna, before I start sanding anything down, I am gonna try to use some of this paintless dent remover tool so that I can try to get some of this out, hoping that I don't have to do as much body work up top and I can just focus on down below. It'll be easier to paint it afterwards. Let's see if we can pull some of this out. These tools work really well. That's looking better. All right, so far so good. It's starting to look better. I am gonna keep pulling that, and then underneath here, keep pulling that. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I am gonna try to hammer this out a little bit because the fender is pushed in a little bit before I start grinding. And I'm gonna take these trim pieces off as well. All right, let's take this trim off. I'm just gonna use a trim tool, get behind here, slide it out. There is, this piece had a broken piece right there. Just slide that out. Oh yeah, it's broken right there. Okay, set that aside. Do the same with this. Slide it out without cracking it. It's a good idea to go from underneath. That way, if you scratch anything, it's less likely to be seen afterwards. And there we go. That came off nice. And actually, that's still together a little bit on the back side there. So we're gonna try to fix this up a little bit. So I pulled out as much of the dents that I can pull out before actually grinding down and using any type of body filler. I just pulled this one a little bit just to get the high spot down, which it looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna mask off the vehicle. Now this being convertible, I don't want any of the dust to get into that top. So I'm actually gonna tape it up right now and go from there. So now when I tape up the line, I'm gonna tape it up at this line where I don't want paint to go. Now I am gonna retape it before I actually paint it, but this is just for the grinding spot, so I could actually tape it up a little higher and then retape lower. So that's not a big deal. So I taped this up, masked it up pretty good. I will mask it up a little bit more when I go to paint it, but for now this is gonna keep most of the dust out of the convertible top. Now I'm gonna start grinding. I can use this more aggressive grinder, that's what I'm gonna start with, and then if I need to, I can use this little smaller die grinder with some smaller discs and stuff. All right, so let's get to it. Let's move to the smaller die grinder. All right, so that looks pretty good. I might grind it a little bit more, But basically you want to get down to bare metal so that we can have the body filler stick to the rough metal. Like I said before, we're not going to use a lot of body filler, just a skim coat, just to get some of the little dents out and some of the scratches. That came out pretty awesome. I'm just going to take a vacuum and vacuum some of this up, clean it up, and then wipe it down and we can start filling it. Right, now I can use a little bit of acetone and wipe it down with a rag. Clean that area. Not as worried about cleaning the other areas at this point. We're going to clean that later. When we go to paint, we're going to want to clean real good. You can take a blowgun and try to get as much dust out of the area as possible. All right, everything's prepped on the car. I've ground down what I need to grind down. It's nice and clean. Now I can start mixing my body filler. I'm going to use a fiberglass body filler to start. That'll give me a little bit of strength and it's not going to crack or anything, be brittle. So start mixing that. Now you don't want to mix up too much, because if you mix up too much, then it's going to harden on you and then you're going to have to start over. So just mix up a good about 3-inch circle. 3-inch diameter circle is good. Oh. They say not to mix this on anything that's porous. This cardboard has a coating on it, so it's not gonna seep into the cardboard. I don't think it really matters, but that's what the can says at least. And then I wanna mix the hardener up. What I do is open the cap, get the air bubbles out, close the cap back up, and then just squeeze it. And you're supposed to mix this like this for about 3 minutes or so, or a minute. Around there. So just mix it up a little bit. Sometimes it gets liquidy if it's kind of old. And put the hardener in. Just make a line across. Now I'm going to mix the body filler. You don't want to like mix it up like a cake. You just want to like fold it, because you don't want to get air bubbles in it. So just mix it up until it's all one color. It should turn like a brown color, a greenish brown. And that looks pretty good. Now there's fiberglass in this, so it's gonna give it a little bit of strength. Just wanna do a thin coat, not thick at all. If you do a thin coat, then you don't have to sand as much. And we will go back and use some body filler just to fill in the little cracks and stuff. So let's do that, nice and thin. Pretty good. All right, we'll move on to the next section. Go over here. I'm gonna try my best to make this body line right here, but let's try to make it blend in. It'd be good too. Keep in mind that when it's hot out, this stuff dries a lot faster. It's nice and cool in here, so I have a little more time to use it, to spread it. But on a hot day, this would be already starting to cure up, and I would have to stop. Looks pretty good. All right, so let's let that dry, and then once it cures up a little bit, I'm gonna start sanding. So while that's drying, I just want to take a look at this molding. I just want to clean this up a little bit. This is kind of attached on the back side, which is good right now. So I'm just going to sand this down a little bit. I'll just put a little bit of fiberglass in there and fix this up. That's pretty good right there. It should be okay. Okay, should be dry enough to sand. Just gonna use some 80 grit sandpaper is ideal. I have 100 grit, but it'll be good. Ideal, what you wanna do is use 80 grit sandpaper, sand it down, get it to the level you want, and then switch to like 120 grit sandpaper, and that would work good for you. All right, so I'll use different types of sanding blocks. The bigger the sanding block, the easier it's gonna be to get it pretty level. So you wanna go in all directions, back and forth, at an angle. Switch back to the other one once in a while. It's a good idea to wear a mask when you're doing this. All right, so there was a bit of a low spot on this area when I was sanding it. I could feel right here was a little lower than over here. So what I did was sand it down a little bit more and put another coat of filler on, and now I'm gonna sand it down again. So on this curve section, it's kind of hard to get a curve. So what I'm doing is just taking a sponge. This is actually a sanding sponge, using it behind the sandpaper and sanding it that way. Right, so I have my fiberglass body filler all set and sanded. It's shaped the way I want it to be shaped. Now I'm gonna add some regular body filler and go from there. Okay, my hardener's all mixed up. About a 3-inch round. Just spread a line right across the middle. About a 1/4 of an inch thick. All right, now I'll mix it up. All one color, then I'm ready to spread. Now this, I'm gonna spread this a little thinner than I did the fiberglass filler. This is gonna fill any little sanding lines and any little pinholes. All right, so that looks pretty good. I did repair this trim already. I just used a little bit of fiberglass. Now I'll just put a little of this filler on, just clean it up a little bit. Now we're going to move on to this area. That's about as much as I can do with that. I'm going to have to stop there, let it dry, and then sand it down. You only have so much time to work with this stuff, and then it starts to harden, and then you're gonna cause more damage than good. Yeah, see, right there, it's too hard. So I'll sand that down, and if I have to do another coat, I can do another coat. All right, so that's pretty dry. I'm gonna start to sand that down. Try to contour it the way of the trim. All right, now I'm going to use the DA sander. bit down here. Just gotta sand a little more. Now I'm going to use some 400 grit sandpaper, try to get some of the fine lines out. I'm going to use it dry first, and then I'll probably wet sand all of this afterwards. So some of these little areas would almost be helpful to have a filler primer. When priming it, it'll fill in all those little imperfections, and then you can wet sand it. All right, I'm just gonna wet sand it. You can feel, just see how it feels. It feels pretty good. The good thing about wet sandpaper is there's no dust, so you don't really need a mask while you're wet sanding, which is nice. So I washed the floor. You want to try to get as much dust out of the area as possible. What I'm gonna do is remove this plastic cover. When I'm spraying the paint, it may cause an issue, it may not. Static electricity, it may suck the paint in certain areas you don't want it. So I'm actually gonna put some paper on the top to mask it, and put a little paper on the floor. So I masked off everything that I don't want to get paint on. I used some paper and then masking tape, just taped off the areas that I don't want to get primer or paint on. Right here and all around there. That way the plastic is out of the way a little bit. So that's the area that I plan on painting, right there. So make sure, don't forget wheels too. Obviously the front wheel's not on this, but cover up the wheels, keep them from getting paint on them. Now I'm ready to prime. Gonna take the rattle can, actually put it in a bucket of warm water, let it sit for about 15 minutes, let it warm up. You can do this if you're using a rattle can paint as well. You want to warm it up, so then it'll just work better. You can check the back of the can and just make sure, see what the temperature of the primer or the paint should be, and go from there. While I'm letting that can of primer warm up a little bit, I'm just gonna take a rag and some alcohol or some type of cleaner. Just wipe down the areas that I'm gonna paint. Get rid of all the dust, anything on there. I'm not gonna prime where there's paint. I'm just gonna prime the areas that were repaired. Try not to be in a dusty environment. If you're doing it outside, try to put some kind of paper down. If you're doing it on dirt or something, even in your driveway, you wanna try to keep the dust down. All right, now my primer's warm. Now I'm gonna shake the can for as long as the directions tell me to shake it for. Make sure you have a respirator. We sell this respirator at warneyauto.com. Just gonna sweep back and forth, keeping the distance that it says on the can. Just get the area that I need to get. Because of how I want to blend the paint right here, I was spraying in this direction right here to keep the paint going this way and try to keep the paint away from this way. I don't want the paint to go all the way up to the tape line over here. Just try to keep it away as much as possible. Now I'm gonna give it another coat and I'm gonna prime this trim. Primer came out really good. It's nice and dry right now. This area right here is pretty rough. So what I'm gonna do now is I can either wet sand it and wet sand further out for the paint, because you're gonna want the paint to stick. So we want that to be more of a rough surface. So not this rough though, but it feels pretty good. So I can do that, or I can take a scuff pad and try a scuff pad. I've had luck doing either one, so I'm gonna try the scuff pad first. If it doesn't work, then I'm gonna have to wet sand. I'll have to replace this piece of paper afterwards, but we'll try the scuff pad first and go from there. Gonna take a blowgun, blow away as much dust as I can. So I pulled back the tape a little bit because I don't want to spray the paint right on that same primer line. So I am just gonna scuff this up right up to the line and then tape a little bit higher, and then I'll do my paint. The bottom line right here doesn't matter because the molding is gonna cover that, so I'm not that worried about that one. So I cleaned up all that around the primer there. Then I can put another tape line right there, same over there, and we'll clean this up and get ready to paint. All right, now I'm just gonna clean the area, get all the dust off, paint this at the same time. Right, so I have the paints in here. You can buy paint, you can order paint online. Just find a company that sells paint, and all you do is give them your color code and they can send you some paint and some clear coat and primer even. So I've got the paint in here. This gauge, this gun comes with a gauge. There's three different guns in this kit. There's a little one for small areas, a bigger one for regular areas, and there's also a priming gun. So we're gonna use this. We sell this at 1aauto.com. Just hook it up to the air. You can adjust the pressure. And when you use the trigger, when you use the first part of the trigger, it's just straight air. There's no paint coming out. Then when you squeeze it a little harder, paint will come out. So you can play with it. You could try it with a little bit of paint thinner on like a piece of cardboard to, you know, practice a little bit, and then eventually try it on your car. I'm gonna put my mask on. So I'll just try it on this little area first. You can turn the pressure up a little bit. Just go back and forth. It's pretty good. I'm going to do the areas that I primed first. Looking at the color matches pretty good. Alright, I'm going to let that dry and try to give it another coat. So the base coat is done. The texture came out a little bit on the rough side, which is okay. I'm gonna wet sand it to make this really smooth, and then I'm gonna clear coat it. So I'm just gonna take off some of my paper this time, because I wanna try to reuse it if possible. Or I can get new paper. Either way, it's gonna get wet, so. Okay, so I'm just gonna use some wet sandpaper and a sponge. This is just a household sponge. Just flip it around this way. I'm gonna start with 1500 grit sandpaper and just do it very lightly. If I have to, I'll go to a more coarse sandpaper. Just gonna do it very lightly. Be careful near the edges. You don't wanna go too hard on the edges because it'll burn right through the edges pretty quick. All right, I'm switching to 1000 grit because it wasn't really doing much, so. So I'm done wet sanding and my texture of the paint actually feels pretty good now. This is what I would have hoped the paint would have came out like when I sprayed it, but this is good now. So we're gonna prep it and get ready to spray the clear on. So I masked up every area that I don't want paint to get on. I wiped down the area with a rag. Make sure you use some kind of cleaner, get the dust off, and then I'm just getting ready for some clear coat. All right, so I have my clear coat in my gun. I have my mask. I'm in a well-ventilated area. I have the exhaust fan on. Now I'm gonna start shooting. All right, now I'm gonna let that dry a little bit and give it another coat. It's been about 15 minutes. I'm gonna give it another coat. So that's had some time to cure up. It's not tacky anymore. Before I let this dry too much, I am gonna peel back on the tape. I don't want to have to take a razor blade to the tape if I leave it overnight or anything. So if I just do it gently, try to peel up, so it peels away. Just go around just the areas that are near the tape. I don't have to unmask the whole car, just these areas. But overall, the color looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the color. It is a little darker, but it's okay. So I left this overnight, came out pretty good. There is a lot of orange peel in the paint, and then there's this paint line, which I am gonna wet sand, and then I'm gonna buff. But overall, it actually came out really good. So I'll try to move that. The paint color is slightly different. You can see the difference right there. Part of that could be the age of the vehicle. The old paint is faded and stuff, but it'll look pretty good once we're done. Now I'm just gonna leave all the plastic on the vehicle because when I do the buffing, a lot of the compound is just gonna go all over, and I don't want it to get on that convertible top because it'll be a pain to remove. And same with the rest of the car. The car's gonna have to be washed anyway, but keeping that stuff off will help. So I'm just gonna move this stuff and start wet sanding. I'm gonna start by wet sanding to try to eliminate this line. I'm gonna start with 1000 grit sandpaper and a sponge. The reason I use a sponge is I don't want to try to eliminate fingerprints. So see if this works. If I have to, I can switch to a more coarse grit. If this doesn't work how I want it to. Every once in a while, take the sponge, just wipe it away. See how it looks. So I see this area, I have to do this a little bit more. That looks pretty good. And it feels nice and smooth. It's a lot different than over here, so just keep working it. Depending on the condition of the car and how the actual paint came out, You may be all set, you may be happy with the job. We want more of a mirror finish on this vehicle to match the rest of the car. What we want to do is eliminate the orange peel, and what orange peel is actually the texture of the paint. If it looks like it's not as smooth, that's what we're gonna eliminate. All right, so I'm done sanding. Everything came out good. I am gonna use a bucket of hot soapy water, wash this off real quick. You probably don't have to use soapy water, but there's a lot of fingerprints on this. So just to get all the oils off, I'm gonna use soapy water and rinse it and dry it. All right, now I'm ready to buff it. I'm gonna use a buffer with a medium cut pad and also some medium cut compound, or you wanna use a heavier cut to start with, and then we'll switch pads and then use a lighter cut. So just follow the directions on your buffing compound. Oops. And just take your time. Be careful around the edges. You don't want to hit this too hard near the edges. So keep it slow. Sometimes I like to use a drill better. Sometimes they have different attachments for a drill you can use. Just keep going over it, and then you can wipe it off and check it, see how it came out. Now it's not going to be extremely shiny because we're going to have to go back over with the finer cut. Now I taped up the edges that I'm gonna go up against that I don't want to actually buff, up there and down there, and same on the door over there, because I don't want to hit the good paint. This is coming out really good. I'm starting to see a really good shine on this, and the scratches are gone. And so what I'm gonna do now is switch out my foam pad on my buffer with a more of a finisher type pad, and then also I'm using a lighter cut compound, and we're gonna buff this some more, shine it up a little bit more. All right, so that's as much of the buffing as I'm gonna do. Came out really nice. It's very mirror looking. Gonna peel some more of this tape back, and I'm actually just gonna wax this side of the car. Just make sure I clean this up a little bit. Because right now, all the clear coat that's on there, there's no wax on it, so you want to put some wax on it, make it shine a little bit more. Like that. Go. That looks good. There we go. It fits. I already put the inner fender well in, installed all those screws. So that's good. Now I can pull the plastic off the rest of the car. Pull all the tape off. There it is. It came out awesome. I'm very happy with the results. If you're thinking of starting to do some body work and you've never done it before, there's some tips to get you by. Try someone's car that doesn't look so good, one of your friends. Probably not a good idea to grab your boss's BMW, but if you have a car that's not so nice, try to make it look nice. Rock and roll.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.